It is Monday, July 13th, 2026, and this is The High Road. I'm Buck Reynolds, and I spent 27 years smelling diesel so you don't have to.
This is Dan Miller.
I'm Jules Sterling.
And I'm Alina Rossi. We have a great show for you today.
Well, we've got an action-packed episode for you. Yesterday, we were tracking that massive port surge before the tariff cliff and the Toyota expansion in San Antonio.
Right. We were calling that the new North American super hub.
And today, the view from the desk is a lot more chaotic. If you thought yesterday's talk about supply chain resilience was academic, the news out of the Middle East is the physical reality check we were all dreading.
Yeah, we have to start with the Strait of Hormuz. Well, my thing is, that June truce didn't just fail. It disintegrated over the weekend. According to Time, we're looking at what I call Schrödinger's Strait.
It's a terrifying label, Buck. The U.S. Central Command says the water is open for business, but the Iranian Revolutionary Guard says it's closed until further notice. Well, okay. The result is total paralysis.
The numbers tell the whole story here. We usually see 120 ships a day through that choke point. Yesterday, only 6 commercial vessels made it through. Bottom line, that's a 95% collapse in volume practically overnight.
You see, the physical risk is no longer theoretical. On Saturday, a Cyprus-flagged container ship, the GFS Galaxy, was hit by an Iranian attack drone. Engine room damage, fire on board, and a missing seafarer. I mean, it's the 4th strike this week.
Well, and the response was even heavier. Overnight, the U.S. hit over 100 targets inside Iran. I saw President Trump on Meet the Press saying we bombed the hell out of them.
It's a high-stakes chess match, but they're using new pieces. For the first time, CENTCOM deployed those Lucas sea drones. These are low-cost, one-way attack drones designed to take out the launch sites on Keshim Island.
It's a pivot in naval warfare, right? Well, okay, it's not just ships anymore. It's automated attrition. And my clients are already asking, if the Suez is essentially cut off from the Persian Gulf, what does the rate hike look like for August?
From where I sit, Jules, the insurance premiums alone are going to price some carriers out of the lane before a single shell is fired. We're seeing record-high indemnity costs because the IRGC is threatening to charge their own transit fees.
Transit fees? That's just a polite way of saying piracy. The way I see it, any shipper counting on a stable Q3 for energy or retail volume just had their legs kicked out from under them.
My thinking is to watch the West Coast ports again. If that water stays hot, everything moves back to the Trans-Pacific lanes, which are already struggling with that tariff front-loading we discussed yesterday.
While the world is watching the Middle East, we finally got some closure on a major project much closer to home, the Gordie Howe International Bridge.
The Detroit-Windsor standoff. Finally, someone realized we were holding up a $4 billion lifeline over a regional budget spat?
Well, they finally settled the profit sharing. Benzinga is reporting Canada's handing over 50% of the net profits to the U.S. for the first 15 years.
To be fair, it's more specific than a simple handover. That U.S. share is being funneled into a regional development fund for Michigan and Ontario. It's a very structured compromise, I suppose.
It's a relief for the supply chain. That Windsor-Detroit corridor handles $120 billion in annual trade. The delay was costing the regional economy about $7 million a day.
Here's the play. The bridge opens July 27th, but the U.S. secured a veto on any toll increases over 10%. It keeps the pricing from going predatory against the privately owned Ambassador Bridge.
Well, I'll believe it when I see a set of duels on the asphalt. We've been hearing it's opening soon for 3 years. But the trade volume is so heavy right now, we need that extra capacity yesterday.
It's interesting how this infrastructure is finishing just as the manufacturing landscape is shifting. That brings us to NEMA, the electrical manufacturers, and their new tariff incentive framework.
This is a masterstroke in business strategy. NEMA's basically telling the U.S. trade representative that if they want us to build AI data centers and the grid of the future, they have to stop taxing our copper and steel at 50%.
Their proposal is kind of a trade-off. If a manufacturer invests in domestic production facilities, they get a credit back on their tariff payments. It's essentially a government-subsidized onshoring pivot.
I mean, I see the logic. Patrick Lozada from NEMA said these tariffs are acting like a tax on the grid. You can't build a digital empire if the literal switches and wires are too expensive to import.
I'm seeing companies like Eaton and Schneider Electric already doubling down on U.S. soil. They aren't waiting for the credits. They're trying to insulate themselves from the USMCA review coming up this month.
Oh, well, you still got to pay for the fuel to move it from the factory. Dan, you want to check the numbers with me?
Let's do it. Now it's time for Diesel Dispatch, our Monday segment where we track the national energy market and the literal cost of keeping those trucks moving.
Okay, the EIA national retail average this morning hit 4.578. That's a 9-cent drop from last week. Usually I'd be whistling on the way to the pump with that kind of news.
9 cents is a decent move on the scoreboard, but it's a bit of a head fake. While the retail price is retreating because of higher refinery output, the underlying inventory is a mess.
Precisely. Distillate stocks, that's our diesel folks, dropped by 5 million barrels this week. Wall Street was expecting a build of almost 1 million barrels. That is a massive delta.
It's a supply shock. Refineries are running at 95%, but we're exporting so much to cover for the Russian diesel ban and the Middle East conflict that we're draining the home tank.
I suppose that inventory deficit means the 9-cent relief is likely a one-week wonder. If distillate stocks stay 12% below the 5-year average, any refinery hiccup is going to spike the surcharge immediately.
Well, the one piece of good news for the guys in the sleeper cabs this week is that PACCAR software update. I mean, they finally raised the final def limp mode speed.
No more 5-mile-an-hour crawl on the shoulder?
Nope. It's 25 miles an hour now. And they extended the grace period to fix a sensor fault from a measly 4 hours to a full 160 hours.
That's a win for reliability. Well, okay. It actually gives the driver time to finish the route and get to a shop they trust, not just the nearest dealer who's going to overcharge them.
It's about uptime, but the macro picture is still volatile. Diesel Dispatch, that's a wrap.
Before we move into the legal wreckage, I have a quick note for the listeners. Strategic logistics requires world-class engineering. This show is powered by the stack developed by Eric Christensen at Neural Network Media.
Support the architect behind the code. Go to patreon.com/Neural Network Media. Get a free trial and our daily briefing PDF.
Trust me, the data in those briefings is the only thing faster than a tailwind on I-80. Now, let's talk about Amazon and this last-mile slaughter.
The fresh data from Loop is showing a major shift. Shippers are saving roughly $6 per package by moving volume from FedEx or UPS over to Amazon shipping.
$6? That's not a discount. That's a total market disruption. How is Amazon pulling that off?
They're just waiving the residential and weekend surcharges. FedEx and UPS have relied on those fees to protect their margins for years. Amazon is essentially using its own density to make those fees irrelevant.
I see FedEx pivoting away from this low-margin volume already. They just launched FedEx Life Sciences on July 9th. They're chasing the $80 billion healthcare market instead.
I mean, I get it. Moving a box of sneakers isn't worth the headache if Amazon is doing it for free. But if you're moving temperature-controlled medicine, that's where the high-stakes game is played.
It's a roster trade. FedEx wants the high-value specialty freight, where the margins are thick. Amazon wants the porch drops. But Buck, I know you're worried about the tech side of this expansion.
Well, my thing is, trucks are hyper-connected now, but the warehouses are still in the dark ages. The Supply Chain Execution Readiness Report out today says 65% of shippers can't even ingest real-time pings.
It's a data integration crisis. You have a $50,000 trailer full of goods, and the receiver is still using a clipboard. I suppose it makes the Amazon platform even more attractive because it's a closed loop.
Bottom line, you can have the fastest software in the world, but it doesn't matter if your trailer gets boosted from a yard in Indiana. Buck, did you see that state police recovery report?
$11 million in recovered freight? Well, that specialized task force in Indiana found 12 semi-loads since April. Everything from electronics to industrial chemicals.
One load alone was worth nearly $3 million. My thing is, and this is what really worries me, is that cargo theft is becoming organized and data-driven. They aren't just stealing trucks, they're stealing specific targets.
And when that load vanishes, the finger-pointing starts. Which leads us to the biggest story of the year for anyone holding a broker's license. The SCOTUS ruling on Montgomery versus Caribe Transport.
Okay, Elena. Explain this to me like I'm sitting at a weigh station. We've been talking about FAA preemption for 30 years. Is that shield finally gone?
Actually, Buck, it is. On May 14th, the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 that the FAAAA does not prevent state law negligent hiring claims against freight brokers. Justice Barrett wrote the opinion herself.
A unanimous 9-0? That is a legal earthquake. Brokers have used that federal law to dodge liability for decades, claiming that states couldn't regulate their service.
Exactly. But the court pointed to the safety exception. They held that a broker's duty to select a safe carrier concerns motor vehicle safety, which the states are still allowed to regulate.
So, if a broker hires a carrier with a conditional rating and that truck gets into a pileup, the broker can now be sued for millions in state court for being negligent?
That's the reality now. The legal shield is dismantled. And for the shippers, this is a nightmare. Because if the broker doesn't have the deep pockets, the lawyers are coming after the shipper next.
The play here has to change. We aren't just buying capacity anymore. We're buying legal indemnity. If you're a broker and your vetting process is just checking a box on an old database, you're a walking target.
I've been saying this for years. We got chameleon carriers shutting down one day and opening the next with a fresh DOT number just to hide their safety record. If a broker isn't catching that, they should be on the hook.
I suppose so, according to the court. Ordinary care is the new standard, but nobody knows what that looks like in practice yet. It's going to be defined by million-dollar jury verdicts.
Every account I manage is already auditing their broker panels. If a broker can't prove a rigorous, multi-layered vetting process, they're being cut. The liability is just too high to gamble on a cheap rate.
I worry about the small brokers. Can they even afford the insurance for this kind of exposure?
Probably not. We're going to see a massive consolidation. Only the big players with the automated vetting tools and the heavy insurance policies will survive the shift. It's a total game changer for the landscape.
Actually, I think it will finally force the industry to modernize its data sharing. You can't have ordinary care without real-time safety data. Complacency has finally met its match in the legal system.
It's interesting that this is happening while the ports of Indiana are landing $25 million federal grants. Even as the legal risk goes up, the physical infrastructure is being built to handle even heavier loads.
That Jeffersonville grant is huge. Doubling barge-to-rail capacity is going to make the Ohio River a major corridor for those infrastructure moves we've been talking about.
I tell you, it's a lot to process. From drones in the Strait to Supreme Court rulings in D.C., the road is getting more complicated by the mile. But that's why we're here. That's a wrap for today's edition of The High Road. We covered the blockade in Hormuz, the end of the broker's legal shield, and a long overdue break for drivers on the limp mode clock.
Peace.
See ya. Bye.
And remember, if the wheels aren't turning, you aren't earning. So keep them between the lines.